You'll get him tomorrow. We get him tonight here on the postgame.
And a special thanks to the Columbus Blue Jackets, whose studio is under construction in Columbus, and that's why they're up here.
That's why they're up here, and that's why it takes you behind the curtain. That's why we hit Jimmy on Monday night. I had to write down literally everything I wanted to bring up with you.
All right.
The Browns are 0-11 after the loss to the Bengals yesterday. I wanted to first bring up, there was a point you made during the broadcast, and I thought it was spot on. It's the Browns in a nutshell. You get a guy who's trying to keep a roster spot, especially because Josh Gordon is coming back this week in Tregs, who gets flagged for taunting. You're 0-10, and you're taunting somebody.
Well, the only reason that makes it at all tolerable is the 85 catches and 9 touchdowns that he's already had this season. That makes it a little bit easier to take. Let me take you behind the curtain a little bit with this guy, though. The connection with him is that Hue Jackson knows his dad.
Okay.
Knew his dad. And the Browns needed a wide receiver.
Yes.
So they gave the kid a try. And he comes in. Now, this kid, when the media goes into the Browns locker room a lot, this kid, yells at the media. He has cursed at the media for just walking in, okay? So not that that's ever okay. I mean, if you don't like the media, then that's fine. But, I mean, to make – in sometimes I would have to say a very immature locker room, which is the Browns locker room at times, and certainly in that area, the wide receiver area. I mean, this guy, again, he just doesn't bring enough to the table that anybody would have to tolerate the behavior that I speak about with the media in the locker room, but especially on Sunday afternoon. Now, if he's going to hurt you in games, then I wonder, what is his value right now at all? I mean, it's just this team really fights for yardage.
Yes.
They desperately fight for yardage. They fight for field position. And they got field position at the point where he did this and got into a stupid argument, screaming match, taunting tantrum with William Jackson, the defensive back of the Bengals, and then he takes a penalty like that. Now, he doesn't give you 15 yards of production.
No.
Now you're going to take 15 in the wallet because he's, he pops off. It just astounds me. I would have sent him back to Cleveland.
Right.
As soon as the play happened, I really would have. I just think that's stupid stuff.
Yep.
For a team that needs. I mean, Hue Jackson is the first one to say, for us to win a game, everything has to go right. I mean, we have to play lights out defense, lights out offense, and the kicker has to make his kicks. Now, that's a pretty full play.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But then if you're going to take penalties, and bad ones at that, penalties, that are away from the ball, then that's intolerable, unacceptable.
Now, I know I heard you this morning with Ken Carman on 92.3. That's a 9 o'clock Monday morning. Don't miss it if you're awake. Talk about the Jabril Peppers penalty in the fourth quarter as the Browns are trying to get the ball back, down a touchdown, and Peppers goes up to try to make a play. When you're 0-10 and you're fighting and you're struggling, you're not going to get those borderline calls.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And that's it's unfortunate, but it's reality. I'm not mad at Peppers for making that penalty. I need him to make a play for us, but you're not going to get that call. I thought that you do.
Yeah. I don't. All of the beat writers are telling me that I'm wrong.
Yes.
I didn't think it was a penalty. I didn't think the player was defenseless because he had the football.
Correct.
So I thought that Peppers made a football play.
Yeah.
I also thought the guy caught the ball and was going down, so the target, was lower than it typically would be. Here's the thing. Here was my problem. The official that was 5 feet away from the play went incomplete pass. The guy that was way over on the other side of the field then
grabbed the flag.
Yeah. I mean, I just didn't get the mechanism of how that went down. Once again, the guy 5 feet away, and you can see it, goes incomplete pass.
Right.
He's 5 feet away from the play. The guy that's 25, 30 yards away from the play and on the other side of the field, he's the one that throws the flag on the play. I don't know what you can do with Peppers on that play. Yeah. I think, to think that kid is going to zoom in, try and separate that receiver from the ball and analyze where his, as we would say, his strike zone is.
Right.
I don't
That's
know.
a lot to ask.
Now, the 0-10 aspect, I agree with you, and I'm not saying that there should be, a conspiracy investigation into the officiating. I get it. But I do believe you earn your calls.
Yep.
I think if a New England Patriots safety makes that hit, but there's more of a chance that flag isn't thrown than there is a chance that it was thrown or is thrown. I think when you're 0-10, you have trouble. It's just like, in the NBA. You earn your calls in the NBA.
That's it.
You earn your calls. Hitters in baseball. Carlos Santana, probably early on in his career, didn't get the strike zone that he gets right now. But umpires are saying, this guy walks a ton.
Right.
He's got a great eye. It must be a ball.
We'll give him that inch on the call.
But only the Browns can take care of that. I mean, really, only the Browns can take care of that, and they're going to have to win some games.
Yeah. All right, I want to start. We've already started, but I want to get – there's lots of things I wrote down here for Jimmy. I don't think that Hue Jackson is doing a 50-yard sprint before the game to go talk to AJ McCarron in the end zone and then joined by Jimmy Haslam to talk about the Iron Bowl. I'm sorry. Call me crazy. I don't think they were that concerned about Auburn, Alabama in that conversation as much as they were, hey, sorry we couldn't make it happen. We really wanted you here, blah, blah, blah.
Well, first of all, I don't think A.J. McCarron would want to talk about Alabama and Auburn. I mean, for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was involved in that horrible loss that Alabama sustained on the kick.
Yes.
Okay, the field goal try, the kick six,
the
field goal try that was short, and Auburn took it back and won the game and won the Iron Bowl. And then I'm sure he wasn't happy with what happened on Saturday, where Alabama got beat for their first loss of the year, and Auburn wins the Iron Bowl again. So on that part, I get it. Just the soap opera theatrics of all of this is amazing. That here was a guy that was technically traded to the Browns. Okay, so you wouldn't have had to run down and get him.
No,
if the paperwork had been in on time, he would have been starting for you in the game. And oh, by the way, he's going to be some kind of a free agent at the end of the year, maybe probably restricted. So you could do business with him again.
Right.
I mean, I have to tell you, Dino, Hue is very comfortable for a coach that is 0-11.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more.
And I don't think it's just the surroundings that, hey, this is my town, Cincinnati. I mean, he is very comfortable right now with where he's at. And you just say to yourself, it just doesn't add up to those numbers, okay? No matter who's in the front office, you say to yourself, wow, 0-11 and 1-26. How could you be
so footloose and fancy-free?
And that's a good way to describe
you sit
it.
there and you go, okay. And I asked, I had Ben Axelrod and Matt Florjancic up here a couple hours ago. We were talking about that. I said, is it more indicative of a guy that knows he's going to stay around, or a guy that, well, I don't really care if they can fire me, not fire me, I don't care. I kind of feel like it's the former. I kind of feel like in Hugh's mind, he's got it where, hey, look, I'm coming back next year, so I can go and sprint down and go see A.J. McCarron. I can say something like to the effect today in his press conference that, the reason why the Browns weren't more aggressive towards the end of the first half is, quote, we are not equipped to take shots.
These are subliminal roster criticisms. And he's not in charge of the roster.
No.
He doesn't have final say over the roster.
And he feels like, look, I can zing the front office because there's not going to be any repercussions on me.
It all very, very applicable in this situation. There's no doubt about it. Hue is right now, some people would say, going rogue.
Yeah.
That he's his own man, and he is making his own case. But I think he's also showing that the hand that he was dealt, or at least I think this is part of his argument, the hand that he's been dealt, as far as the roster and the players on that roster and the players who are not on that roster, that he's doing the best he can with them. And he cannot get over the hump with them. I mean, they're 0-11. They have not won a game in what we had it tonight, 337 days.
Yeah, since Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing. It's now we're going to get into December, and we know what happens in December. The injuries start to pile up, and I know the Browns came out of yesterday reasonably healthy, but you don't have Jamie Collins on defense, you don't have Ogba, so you're less playmakers there. Guys start getting banged up. Guys start thinking about the offseason, and I don't know. I guess the point being is, I don't know if things are going to get better just because there's going to be a new guy in the wide receiver room starting this week. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and you don't have Joe Thomas, and Joe Thomas
obviously that's huge.
Joe Thomas on Sunday would be a big help to them because Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, I mean, and the Chargers are playing very well, and they're playing very confident, and they kind of, the old term, they smell blood in the water here. They're 5-6. They're still in the wild card chase. They're on a bit of a roll.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers is playing very well, and they're the only team that lost to the Browns back last Christmas Eve. Throw that all into the stew, and you're Dinty Moore.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, the injuries are starting to add up. The Gordon story is going to be very interesting on Sunday. The last time he came back, Dino, he was not in shape.
Yeah.
And he was mentally not in a very good place, okay? So he wasn't into it, and he became, for those reasons, he became destructive to a team that really had some legitimate playoff hopes at the time he came back. Now, he came back, and they played Atlanta in his first game back, and he was okay. But Brian Hoyer threw about 3 interceptions in that game, and I would dare say 2 of them were on Gordon for running wrong routes, okay? And then after that, he just disintegrated. And, of course, then he got suspended for missing the walkthrough the day before the last game of the season. I don't think that's the case this time around. Physically, he's in much better shape. At least listening to him, he sounds like he realizes that this could be it.
This is it, yeah.
The only thing I think that probably he's surprised at, and maybe he played the game of, the Browns will probably cut me.
Yeah.
Or they're going to trade my rights.
Right.
And some other team, they're going to try and get something. They're into gathering draft picks.
Right.
Maybe they'll trade my rights, get a 6th or 7th round pick for me, and I'll be with another team. Okay? And here he is, he's back, and he's with an 0-11 team that did not let him go, that waited it out and said, you know what, we got nothing to lose except, this Sunday. But I would imagine that he's a little surprised that when he did re-enter the NFL, he was still a Brown.
Cleveland Brown, yeah. I am too. I'm curious to see because I mean it's just so obvious that and you guys have all said it that watched him in practice last week.
I watched him Wednesday.
Immediately,
he's
the best, easily the best wide receiver on the team, and. Jimmy, I watched Corey Coleman drop that touchdown yesterday, and yes, Kenny Britt's played better since the bye week, but I mean he is what he is.
Right. Higgins and Lewis.
Are just not there. I mean, they're just not there. So, and let alone Bryce Treggs and his and the 15-yard penalty. So, I mean, Gordon is going to come back in a really nice situation for him. Is that he can be the featured guy, and the Browns want to use him. I mean, Hue Jackson has said, look, they want to use him.
Oh, Hue Jackson needs a win.
Yeah.
And that is a big boost for him in an area that has been totally lacking this season and last season and the season before that. The wide receivers. It's been a huge problem and a real negligence in the drafting when there were plenty of wide receivers coming out of college. The inability to hold on to some of the guys you had. It's really. It's indefensible what they did at that position. You could just give him a quick slant on Sunday to get him going, and let me tell you, he could run right by you.
Exactly.
Because that's what he is. He's running a 4.3 and change 40 right now. I don't think he ever did that when he
I don't think so.
Here,
and he's still, like, even in 2013, you always felt like if you got him on a slant and he could get by, get around the safety with a bad angle, forget about it.
I remember there was a game in Foxborough that the Browns dramatically lost.
Yes.
Okay, they blew a 12-point lead with about a minute left to go in the game and ended up losing the game to Tom Brady. But he was uncoverable that day.
Yeah.
He took a quick little slant one time. They were parked inside their 15-yard line, and he ran away from the Patriots defense. I mean, and Belichick, was in amazement. They tried everything.
Yeah.
They tried double coverage. They tried to go
was
one in front, one of them.
Was Talib?
Yeah, he ran right by it.
Who
and
was
he
a
just
Pro Bowler that year.
Just kind of flicked him off.
Yeah,
he
like,
just
see
ran
you
by
later.
him. And he has such a misleading stride. It doesn't look like he's running hard nor fast. But believe me, he's doing both. He opens up like Secretariat. I mean, in the Belmont. I mean, it's unbelievable. Secretariat by 18, by 22 legs. I mean, it was unbelievable. And that's what he does.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it right away. And it's not something that they're going to have to Well, it's not in our
playbook, right?
Well, it doesn't have to be. It's just a slant.
Yeah, just
put the ball out there.
Or the Norv Turner that you've told me. Just loft it up there and let him run under and catch it.
Norv Turner used to tell Brandon Whedon, the best play I can give you right now is just drop back, throw it as far as you can in the direction of Josh Gordon, and he'll go get it.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Last thing I wanted to bring up was, the Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam. We saw yesterday was with Hue Jackson in the end zone with the AJ McCarron conversation. Somewhere along the line, I don't know what his level of involvement was, but, you had the Tennessee situation happen where, the Volunteers looked like they were going to get Greg Schiano, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, to be their head coach after a huge backlash. Some said almost like a mob backlash. That ended up being canceled. Now, whether or not Jimmy Haslam was involved, I mean, he was involved in the interviewing and the hiring of the athletic director at Tennessee.
John Curry?
John Curry, yeah. I don't know if he was somebody. I did read. I think Landry Football said that Haslam had been involved in this search. I don't know that for a fact, but that's a lot of spoons in the fire for a guy who's also running a company, which, oh, by the way, has some of its former employees on trial.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on for the guy.
Let's go back on Jimmy Haslam. Yeah. All right, now let's go back when Rob Chudzinski was fired, and the Browns were looking for their next head coach, and Joe Banner and Michael Lombardi were a co-op together, but had started to splinter.
Yes.
Okay. And started to go their own way, and Jimmy Haslam was watching it but needed a coach.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Bill Belichick, who Michael Lombardi was just tied to the hip with, called up Lombardi and said, hey, do me a favor, give Greg Schiano a look. Schiano was out of a job. He had been fired in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers, but he had a great run at Rutgers.
Yes.
Belichick's son had gone to Rutgers.
That's right.
Okay, and a lot of Patriots players had come out of Rutgers. I think Logan Ryan came from there.
Right.
Devin McCourty.
Right.
Jason McCourty.
Yeah.
Kenny Britt.
Yeah.
All played for Schiano on some really good Rutgers teams. One of them was undefeated very deep into his season.
Yeah, it was a great team.
All right, let me continue here. The Browns are at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile, and they are stuck. They've interviewed Mike Patton once, but they didn't bring him back for a second interview. So Haslam agrees, and they have the interview with Schiano, but Banner is very upset that they were even taking the time to interview Schiano. Plus, he knows that Lombardi kind of backdoored him on it and went to Haslam to get the interview with Schiano. The Browns are interviewing Greg Schiano to be their head coach, okay? Whether or not it was just a token interview or not, they're sitting in a room to do that. Banner does not ask a question in the interview.
Wow.
Okay? And I believe Schiano, the story goes, Schiano said to him as the interview was coming to an end, do you mean that you don't have a question for me? And Banner said no. It was at that point in time that Haslam realized three things. He wasn't going to hire Greg Schiano.
No.
Lombardi and Banner had splintered to the point where the two of them could not coexist, and so neither one of them existed, and he fired them both.
Trimmed them both, yep.
What was the third thing? And he had to go back and get Patton.
Right.
And remember, very quickly, because Buffalo was saying, hey, listen, we need to know, you're going to hire this guy?
Right.
Do we need to go get another defensive coordinator, or are you going to hire him, or are you going to just let us keep him in Buffalo? And then Patton was hired.
In that same week,
like also, in 3 days.
Yeah, wasn't also Ray Farmer being interviewed, I think it was by the Dolphins, to become their head of football operations or what have you, and all of a sudden it's like Jimmy Haslam's got a problem here because he's got both of the guys in his football organization splitting apart, and he doesn't want to lose Farmer, so you have that going on too.
And Greg Schiano was right in the middle of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden,
you know what you're talking about. First of all, I would think that he was involved in some form in trying to find Tennessee a new head coach. I mean, he's that involved. He's a proud Tennessee volunteer. His family has buildings named after it on the campus of the University of Tennessee. And he's a big booster of Tennessee, and he wants to see them succeed, especially in football. So it would be hard for me to believe that he wasn't involved at some level. The interesting thing is, Greg Schiano, he had sat in front of Schiano, as the possible candidate for the Browns job.
Yeah. So and that's why I just found that interesting. And I, not knowing, I remembered that he had interviewed, but just hearing the dynamics of all that, very interesting stuff. I mean, this is soap opera. Yeah. It's soap opera stuff. All right. Browns and Chargers on Sunday. You'll head out to Los Angeles. I guess my last thought with you is, what have you seen from DeShone Kizer since we've been back from this bye week? And, it's, I know he had to go through concussion protocol yesterday and everything. Have you seen growth in the way that you'd want to see at this point from him?
Well, the one thing that was driving me crazy about him was he had no touch on the football. Yesterday, he really dropped throws in. He dropped the one into Coleman.
Yep.
And he dropped the one that should have been caught into Coleman, too. He dropped it into Kenny Britt.
Yep.
Those throws were coming, hot and on a line drive. He never really gave the receiver an opportunity to run under it. And he still has problems with the fade into the end zone. He dropped one into DeVal. Now, I heard Hue Jackson, this cemented the point for me. He had mentioned to him during practice a couple of weeks ago, and it might have been during the bye week, where he said, hey, DeShone, why don't you take a little off your throws?
Right.
And, kind of put some air underneath them. And I was begging for that because I watched it even in the preseason that I thought that everything he threw was the same way, hot and on a line. So I thought he improved there. I thought he played his best game yesterday. Now, he needs to do it week to week. What has been his course has been good game, bad game, good game, bad game. So now he's had, 2 out of the last 3 weeks. I thought he played a, pretty good game in Detroit, a really bad game against Jacksonville, mind you, against a really good defense. But on the road yesterday, I thought he was not the reason they lost the game. He really wasn't. I thought he did improve. The interesting thing is they've put a lot into him now, okay?
Yes.
I mean, you really have. And does that crop currently in college football, does that make you go, oh, never mind what DeShone's done. We only have 5 more games with him. We're going to go get a guy at number 1. I don't know. And who is going to make that decision?
Well, it's who's going to make the decision. Which of the guys are going to, is Darnold going to come out? Is Rosen the better? I mean, I watched a lot of that USC-UCLA game, and I mean, Rosen came away impressive, and doing so under a lame duck coach, and all that stuff that was going on at UCLA. I don't know. That's going to be really an interesting part of how this plays forward.
Well, they've put a lot of time and work into him. You have to make that pay off a little bit. They will have a full body of work on him.
Yes.
This isn't going to be like Kessler or when they put Brady Quinn in one year right at the end of the season, or any of the other guys, maybe except for Tim Couch. You kind of knew that Couch had played the full season. But if he finishes the year and he goes through these last 5 games, I mean, this kid in 1 year has had everything happen.
Right.
So, I mean, you're not going to say, well, how will he treat it if he throws interceptions?
Right.
God knows he's thrown interceptions. We know how he deals with it. What about if he gets hurt? Well, we've had 2 or 3 times where he's been hurt and he's come back into the game.
Yeah.
So, they've got, I think, a bundle of information on him with more to get now in the next 5 weeks. And it will be interesting now with Coleman and Gordon to see how he operates with real receivers.
Yeah. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that this week. Jimmy, thank you so much.
You got it.
Glad you were here tonight. And for all of you, thank you so much for watching the Donovan Live postgame show here on WKYC's Facebook Live.